telephone number. Let's go to WNTW Radio in Virginia. Robert, what's your topic? Fire away.
Hi, this is Savage. I was wondering, the comment I have is regarding the usage of the term Z and Zer as gender-neutral pronouns. I think the point behind using them is so that you don't have to identify whether who you're speaking with is a man or a woman or a transgender. And I think
Excuse me, why would I do that? Tell me why I would twist all of humanity for a 0.1% of the population. How crazy are we as a society that the whole of civilization has to twist itself into a pretzel over some people who are gender confused?
Right, yeah. I think...
I mean, really, do you understand what I'm saying to you? How insane this is? You mean all of the history of civilization and humankind, where a man is born a man and a woman is born a woman, some people are homosexual, some are not, some are transsexual, some are not. Now you're going to change all of humanity for the few who are not, who are confused about their gender identity? And you can't say Mr. or Sir anymore? I'm sorry. This is insanity.
Yeah, I can see why it's uncomfortable to use. I just think...
Uncomfortable? It's not uncomfortable. It's nutty. It's nutty. What civilization on earth permits a very small percentage of a percentage to dictate the terms of the entire society?
Well, it'd be like why we have handicapped restrooms or ramps.
Here we go again, right? Now compare it to the African Americans against slavery. I'm waiting for that comparison.
I'm just, I'm not arguing for or against it. I think that's just the kind of, instead of being confused as to whether or not you have to identify someone as a man.
No, I think it's confusing to confuse people with a non-issue. I think that's really confusing. You know, like fill out a driver's license now, Mr., Mrs., I have to eliminate that, call myself Zer or Zis because of Cher's daughter.
Or even Cher herself.
All right, I'm sorry. This is insanity. And the country has to stand up to these terrorists. This is a terrorism. This is a form of terrorism. This is social terrorism, plain and simple. It's the same thing that you see going on, whether it's a city being burned down, the police being told to stand down, or now we're being told, oh, put up with this, put up with that, blah, blah, blah. I've never seen anything like this. WABC Tracy, what's your topic? Go ahead, please.
I listen to you often, and this is the second time I caught you talking about transgender. And I was wondering if you had ever met or talked to someone who feels they're not in the right body.
Instead of putting me on the spot here like I'm in the Spanish Inquisition, what's your point?
I'm glad it's not a huge issue in the United States, but I have been to meetings for parents and friends of homosexual people, and also for meetings for parents and families of transgender children. This is a heartbreaking issue. These children know, around 4 or 5 years old, that they were born into the wrong body.
Well, I have sympathy for them, and so what's your point?
You just make it sound like, oh, who cares about
so you mean a child with leukemia dying in a back ward, I'm not supposed to pay attention to that child? I'm supposed to forget about children who are actually dying of cancer?
That has nothing to do with this situation.
What do you mean? Well, there's only a certain amount of compassion a human being can expend on strangers. I preserve my compassion for children who are actually dying of cancer, for example. So I tend to fund those organizations. I mean, there's a lot of problems in the world. Everyone has problems. To me, the transgender problem is not the largest problem on the planet.
Never said that, but you have a little bit of compassion.
Well, you're trying to make it bigger than all the other issues, and I'm trying to put it in perspective. I think it's out of proportion to its importance. So if you want to rank importance, I would start with children who are racked with pain dying of cancer. As children, we should be paying attention to. Now, if a person has sexual dysfunction or doesn't understand who they are sexually, that's certainly a problem for children, but I don't think it's society's number one problem.
You're saying, I'm not saying that either. I never said that. I'm just saying.
So what are you? So kindly illuminate me. What are you saying?
You're saying, oh, they're confused. Like, oh, I don't know which sex I should be today. They are born one sex, and they know they are really the other sex.
I heard it. I've read it. I know it. Please don't lecture me on the basics of today's political correctness. And so what am I supposed to do about it?
A little bit of compassion for them.
Oh, now you're giving me a compassion thermometer? You're giving me a compassion thermometer through the airwaves.
Yes, I am.
This is called a thought. You're conducting yourself like the thought police in communist China. Do you know that?
No, I don't know that.
Yes, you are. You become like the fascists in China. That's what you leftists have become. You're trying to tell everybody what to think. But you think because you're a good person, in your heart, you're better than everybody else. This is the problem with liberals, right to the core of their heart. They know what's better for you. They know what's important for you. They know where your compassion should go. I saved my compassion, madam. for the children dying in the back wards of cancer, children who have lost their hair on chemotherapy, who are suffering and their parents are screaming out, no one cares? Or how about the soldiers who are dying, who gave their lives for this country?
Join the savage.
One of the things I try to do is retain perspective. If you can keep your head when all those around you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, then you are a man, my son. I never forgot the poem by Rudyard Kipling, but many of you have. You've lost your head. You've lost perspective. It's like the last caller in the last hour telling me about the poor problems, the problems amongst the poor transgender children. I don't deny that they're in pain because of their gender confusion. I didn't deny that. Nor did I say we shouldn't have compassion for them. I said you have to rank your compassion. You must maintain perspective on your compassion. You must preserve your compassion, and you must put it in order. And certainly gender problems are a problem, I guess, for those who have them. But in terms of compassion, I would reserve it for children dying of cancer in the back wards of hospitals who are screaming in pain. I would reserve compassion for the VA hospital inhabitants who are dying in pain, not being given the care that they deserve by Barack Obama. I put them ahead of transgender individuals, wouldn't you? Would you not put veterans ahead of transgender children? So, again, it's a matter of perspective. We didn't say they should be ignored or ridiculed. No one said that. But put things in perspective, for God's sakes. As a society, I believe we've lost our perspective, and we don't know what's up, what's down, what's right, what's wrong. We can't rank anything in its order of importance. We've become deranged, and that's called insanity. I've studied human sexuality from many different levels my entire life, and there are people appear on every band of the spectrum of sexuality. Let's be very clear about that. At birth, there are people on the entire spectrum of sexuality. There are men who are born, who are pure, unadulterated, 100% heterosexual. In all ways, physically, emotionally, psychologically. And there's almost nothing that can be done to change that. In other words, no matter what anyone try to whisper in the ear, they're still going to be men. On the other side, women, there are women who are born 100% heterosexual. They could never become lesbians, no matter what you did with them, never. They're just not made that way. But now take the spectrum and imagine that the human genome is so complicated and so vast that genetically it's possible, chemically it's possible, emotionally it's possible with parents and whatnot, that children are born along that spectrum who are not 100% heterosexual. Some are born 100% homosexual. That's the way they're born. You could say it's not born, it's learned. Whatever you want to say, there are people who know they're gay from a very early age. You could also say there are people who feel uncomfortable in the body they were born in at a very early age, and they start to play with the boy plays with the dolls, and he says he always wanted to be a girl. I've heard it all, I've read it all, and it's certainly possible. But it's also true that parents can shape a child's sexuality. So that if you have a little boy, for example, who likes to play with dolls, you don't have to yell at him for playing with the dolls and wanting to put on mommy's clothing. You could say to him, look, Adam, that's all well and good. There's nothing wrong with you wanting to play with dolls and dress like mommy. But you're a boy, and boys dress like this, and boys act like this. And that way, when you grow up, you'll be like daddy, and you'll meet a woman like mommy, and you'll have children. That's the order of nature. That's how societies survive. That's how a society goes forward. If you want a society to come to a dead end, then you start catering to everyone on the spectrum, and you tell them to do what you feel like. You know, if it feels good, do it. In other words, why not do it in the road? This is an extension of the whole 60s. Whatever you feel is accurate. Whatever you feel is good. Whatever you feel is true. And now look where the feelings have gotten us. It's so bad that even the Pope, who's as left as they come, has said it's enough already with the, violating the biological imperative. So I've given you the whole picture from my point of view. The parents have a huge role in what that child becomes. And certainly you can encourage a little boy to become a girl. Certainly you can encourage a little girl to become a boy. You can do that if you want. But then why are you doing it? You're doing it for what reason? Because of politics or because it's good for the child? And what is good for the child? Is it not better for the child to be raised in his or her own biological reality? Or should you say to the child, no, go with your feelings? If you start putting feelings ahead of everything else, what you wind up with is the mishmash that we have in America today. And okay, if you want to live with the mishmash, that's all well and good. But don't drag me into your confusion is the point that most of us are making. I'm sorry you're confused, but I'm not. And I don't need you telling me what I'm supposed to feel about your confusion in plain English. You got a men's room? Go in a men's room. You got a woman's room? Go in a women's room. If you don't know what you are, don't bother me. That's all. That's what most people think. What do you want us to say? This is social terrorism. That's what this is.